From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, I finally got a chance to meet you in person, but I'm going to say hi virtually over a call this time again, but it's good to see you.
Oh, great seeing you, Steve, and it was great connecting in person.
As we, some of you have known, James and I have met pretty much online through Twitter and other means. And we just recently both got a chance to gather at InfoComm, and it was not only a wonderful experience for us to unite, but also to take in some of the learning and experience and being able to just have those impromptu, casual conversations there. James, this was your first show, and we probably aren't going to get into the specifics of the show, but what was most memorable for you?
So yeah, this was my first InfoComm. Most memorable was the networking and connecting, like meeting people like yourself, Tim Albright, Joe Way. I mean, the HEPMA folks, we were there in force, and I've never met any of them in person. Even like Tim Van Wharf, who's 2 hours at Rutgers from me, I've never met him until we got down there. It's funny how us Jersey people had to go to Florida to meet in person.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. I haven't met some of those folks as well. I think I may have met Tim, but it's always good just to get together and be able to just hang out, quite honestly, have conversations that aren't specific to a certain topic, and also just get to see people more, on a casual basis, because you can learn a lot from people when they're outside of their environment, I think.
Yes, I feel once you get a connection with somebody, their guard is let down and you learn and grow as that relationship builds. And it's great connecting and building those relationship with the guards down, where people are a little less protective um, of what they might say or what they might do.
I feel like from a business standpoint that's where a lot of people actually do a lot of business, because you build the relationships on a different level, and you could also try to figure out what people are really feeling because they're more relaxed, and I think that it builds a level of trust as well. Um, One of the things that I know, for me, was really very rewarding, and I'm wondering if you can relate, is that uh, people were able to come up to you and tell you that, hey, you have been an inspiration to me, or I've learned things from you, or I've used something that you suggested or did or built, or thanks just for being supportive and doing some of the things you do. It's, I mean, to me, I can't tell you how much that is very inspiring, and especially in this time when we were very isolated for quite some time, feeling that community, which I think is really what we're trying to do with Ask the Programmer, is really very inviting and encouraging. You use that to springboard when you get back, and you get refueled.
Yes, I was definitely taken back um, by the people who just wanted to connect with myself, which I still go to. The whole point is I'm a nobody from Jersey. Like I just made a couple comments online and built relationships and building a community. And I had people like Alicia Henley, like who attended the HEPMA event, and she's like, "I'm here to support you," and HEPMA, and running into Tim Albright and hanging out with him, and Gina from Atlas ID, who was a great person to connect to. And it's just people actually, it was genuine, and you could build a connection, and you could, and like I said, people sought me out, pardon me, which again shocked me. Like I said, like I think Mike Peterson kind of has the best. He put this in our Slack group, was he was so excited when he just got back. His wife was like, "You finally met your people." And he's like, yes, I did.
I know, right? I mean, for me, this was a lot of InfoComs. It's been 25 years, but the reason I got hooked on it was because the first year I went, and I was in my mid 20s, and I really was very new, and I was working for a manufacturer at the time, didn't know much outside of what my job was and what I did in this company. When I went to InfoComm, my eyes were just like wide open with, oh man, like I actually make a difference. Just like you said, the things that you do are noticed and recognized, and people actually appreciate them, and you've helped people, and they've been able to do their job better, and be successful themselves because of things that you do. That what you just described about meeting your people, that would happen for me many years ago, and I still go back for a refill. So it's incredible what an event like that, and I mean, InfoComm is what most people attend, but it's not limited to that. And I think one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit today was, so what can we do? Why is something like this important to a programmer, and what are some of the aspects of it that, programmers like to be kind of in their own confines. They like to do their thing. A lot of times they're less social, or they want to just be with their own specific people. But something like this can be very intimidating or overwhelming. What are some of the things that you thought were, you might recommend, or you might be able to give some tips to programmers that are considering it in the future?
um First and foremost, and this has always been, I guess, my tagline, you can say, is to always be learning. So take advantage of the education courses. I felt this year there were a very good lineup. I mean, you yourself had that program versus configuring. I didn't take that one because I did it on the HEPMA one, but you also, with even with the Kelly Perkin ones, where it was retaining employees and mentoring, that is not programming per se, but it's valuable to programmers to be how to build a team when you're working together. Or even that user class that you guys gave, where you talked about user design, and that was very insightful. And then going into, like, probably, I would say, again, for me personally, was the zero trust architecture class I took. And that was the first class I sat there and go, we need more of this besides the programming one. Like, this was right up my alley, where we're talking about security, which again, us programmers, we need to know. And that's even before we hit the show floor and talk to the equipment, and going down there and actually asking questions. I visited a couple booths, and I was able to sit there and drill. I don't want to say drill, but get in depth conversation with the engineers. And, you know, okay, does this device have Telnet or SSH? Like, or can I use any programming language, or am I limited to what to use? And APIs, and getting into those conversation with the people there are very valuable, because you can read all you want about it, but sometimes hearing about it is better.
I think that's really interesting, because one, I'm glad that you were able to have conversations like that, and secondly, I think it's important for the manufacturers to be hearing from programmers, and also knowing that programmers are having the types of conversations that you said, that we're not stuck doing things the way we did 10 years ago, and that we're looking at selection and integration of products that play nice on the network and that have security. And I think that's really what you just said is, to me, would make it worthwhile for a manufacturer to want to be talking to programmers, because they need to hear these types of things. Go into the education, and thank you for going to my sessions. And, that's always been something that I've challenged myself to do. And it's very rewarding, and also a lot of effort and stress to do them sometimes. Do you see this as being something that you would encourage either yourself or other people to also not only be in the session, but try to figure out how to contribute to them?
Yes. I'm not somebody who likes to think I'm a subject matter expert on things. I still find it ironic people like to hear what I have to say. Again, I go back to, I feel I'm a nobody from Jersey. So taking me a while to actually step out of that shell and, take on more of these SME roles. But there are tons of knowledgeable people out there. And the more we connect, and even if you're not teaching, but interacting with the teachers. I mean, those were probably one of the better courses I took this year, or this InfoComm, was the ones we could interact with. And like, there was one, I'm not even going to go into the title of the class, but there was no interaction. The presenters read right from the slide. You can tell they did not do the slide, and then got to the end, and it's like, if you have any question, email us. And that was it. Like, they didn't like welcome the feedback or welcome. And a bunch of us walked out and like, this was a bad course. And that was just not the topic, but that was the presenters. And I don't want to fault them, because maybe they got thrown into it, not prepared. So I'm going to not knock them for that. That's why I won't name names or titles on that one. But yeah, I think there's a lot of educational people out there, and also diverse. Even this weekend on AV and AM, we talked about having diverse voice. And when you're not collaborating with people, I say it's like using the coloring a picture, but you only have one crayon. Like, yeah, you got it done, but it's not as colorful. So getting different voices adds to your repertoire of things you can do and knowledge, and helps you grow. So if you're in these areas, interact with the presenters or become a presenter and be a SME.
Yeah, I would very much agree. And sometimes it's hard because you underestimate the fact that what and you feel is so common can be very new to so many other people. And even things that are on a very introductory level are still something that other people can cherish in terms of knowledge. I also look at it as being able to hopefully educate and clear up some of the misunderstandings. So you're also doing things, it's almost looked at to me as you're doing a service to the industry, to have conversations and be able to spread information that is is a little bit unfiltered, and it comes from your experience and being in the field. And I think a lot of the education in the industry tends to be a little bit biased, and that's okay, because everybody should. If you're trying to sell a product, you want to educate it to make your product look good, but being able to get knowledge from other people who do what you do, and I think if we come back full circle, that again goes back to how do programmers learn, and how can we be able to help other programmers through things like this podcast and your Slack community and other ways, so that we actually can be able to kind of get to the nitty gritty. People you're working with somebody who understands you.
Yeah. Just only thing I have to add to that was probably the words of advice from a boss I had. I was talking about what I do. This was a couple of years ago. I'm like, what I do is not hard. And his response to that was something I took and trying to apply. And he looked at me and goes, it may not be hard to you, but it might be hard to somebody else. And that really stuck with me.
Yeah. And there's also a certain responsibility to, I think, pass on knowledge so that people behind you can be better.
Yep.
And there is something to learning things on your own, but why have to make those same mistakes that you made when they can potentially learn from that and be able to grow and take bigger steps? So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. We're probably going to be wrapping up shortly, and I just wanted to think about what can we share that somebody may not have thought of from going to an event like this, or what might be a tip for somebody that is considering going and either attending an InfoComm or a conference, or how do you break the ice to get more involved?
Get out there, get out of your shell. And it's a learning curve for myself, but get out of your shell and network with people. I think that was probably the best thing I did at InfoComm this year was networking with people, connecting, getting on the socials with AV Tweeps and AV and AM. Get out there, get out of your shell, because you're gonna grow.
And I admired what you've done, and it's really very cool. I saw you in so many pictures, and I saw you mentioned in articles. So, well, it works. It works, and kudos to you. And I know that it's not easy, because I don't think that we're necessarily wired that way. But I really think, one, you did a great job, and two, that I admire you for taking that first step. And I would echo what you just said.
Thank you. And it was hard. Trust me. I'm a person I like to say myself, and it was definitely hard, but it was much needed, I would say.
So in the end, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, with that, so if people want to branch out and learn more or get some more insight from you, how do they get in touch and learn more about what you're doing?
We always connect on social on Twitter, AV_James King. Follow the AV and AM hashtag. Steve did a great job with the last weekend takeover. LinkedIn, LinkedIn is just James King, but I'm not on there much. And I do write for the Higher Ed Digital Magazine, the IT and AV column.
And for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on all the socials. If you want to learn more about my company, it's at controlconcepts.net. We have a blog there that produces a lot of insight and just industry knowledge sharing and so forth. And I do some writing for AV Network and AV Technology. But as James said, reach out to us so that we can help you, because that's why we put together this podcast. We want to hear the questions, the struggles, the needs that you have, and we also want to help create and strengthen this community, because we know that you guys are out there, and it's important that we try to create a greater voice and make sure that we can be supportive of each other. So please, if you don't know, we're on YouTube, we're on Apple and Google Podcasts, and leave us a message and let us know what you think. The rating would be wonderful too. With that, this has been Ask the Programmer.